very excellent and well, uh, in demand is the word I want, business coach. And we're going to talk today about how she approaches these things around helping small business owners to simplify connecting. Come on, baby. There we go. And we are live. And welcome to your Visibility Edge. I'm Denise Wakeman, and I am your host and publisher of Your Visibility Edge. And today I am talking with my friend, client, colleague, all kinds of things. We've known each other for a long time. She's a business coach, a very, very excellent and well, uh, in demand is the word I want, business coach. And we're going to talk today about how she approaches these things around helping small business owners to simplify, focus, and actually follow through on the goals they care about. So she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's doing. And I've got some questions for her. If you have questions, you can also type them in the comments and I will let her know. Or I don't know if Kim can see them. She might be able to see them. But in the meantime, give Kim some likes and let's go. Kim, if you don't mind giving a little bit about your background beyond my few words, that would be helpful. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. It's so great to be here. Yes, and it's so much fun to do this with somebody who I have known, liked, and trusted for so many years to both guide me, both personally and professionally. So I want to say thank you. I am Kim Ravida. My business is Kim Ravida Coaching, and I work with small business owners to create the business that they really like, love, and can make money from sustainably. Have a life with a business, not a business, and maybe a life on the side. And that has been my foundation for many, many years. I come from corporate and I saw a lot of people just ruin their lives, getting divorced and, having their kids not like them because they weren't around. And I went out on my own because I'm like, I don't want to be like this. And I don't want my clients to be like that either.
I like that. And I don't think I've heard that first tagline that you said. So you started in corporate. So what was the moment or the defining, thing that made you decide to go off on your own and focus your business on supporting other business owners?
I think first and foremost, I love to support other people. So I was not an attorney, I was support. And I worked with a lot of the high achieving attorneys and the young kids coming up and working 24/7 and really not having having a life. And I fortunately had a life that I loved. I worked full time at a law firm. I worked part time, and I never called it work, at a gym as a fitness instructor, trainer, all the things, and really standing behind people to build a life that they loved, whether it be in health or professionally. And so I knew I never really had a game plan. I just went to work, and that's, because that's what you did back then. You went into work. You usually went to corporate America. You got a good job, you got benefits, the whole nine yards. And I realized that this isn't the life that I wanted to build for myself. I really thrive on autonomy and being the one behind the scenes to run the show. And I thought, you know what? I got into this coaching because I actually worked for the executive coach in my law firm. I was his executive assistant. And I thought, I just love this ability to help someone see what they're not able to see. And they're grinding away and really trying and doing all the things, but they're not reaching their goals and where they want to be in life. And they're, leaving and finding other jobs, but they're doing the same thing because they've never really looked at, well, what is it I want? What are my values? How can I create the life style that I want to have? And so my company was moving, and it was the best time for me to turn around and say, okay, I'm off. I'm off to do something else. And that's when I went to coach training. And having had many coaches myself to kind of get to this point, I knew the value of coaching and what it brings to the world and to people to make the changes. And so
Hmm.
I rolled off and off I went and got my coach training. And I've been doing that since 2012, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's around the time we might have met too.
Yep.
Um,
You've been in my world for many years. I'm so grateful for that.
so you're talking about goals and not being able to meet them, the people that you know not being able to meet them. And I'm just wondering, how do you do that work with a client? How do you help them achieve the goals or identify the goals first and then achieve them?
And that's such a great question, right? It's identifying the goals. And, a lot of times our goals aren't our goals. They're goals other people have set or society has set for us. And we just kind of fall right into it and plod along, kind of like I did. And so, there's a process that I go through to help someone identify. It's usually like, where are you right now? Where
Hmm.
do you want to go? What are the gaps? What do you have in your world today? I do have worked with some very amazing men, but primarily my market is women and women who have children or family and all stages, from just starting or wanting to start a family. We'll just say all straight, 1 to 18, let's just say. And, they are wanting also to be a really great mother and be a business owner. And so those are 2 really big goals, right? And so
Yeah.
so
Combining them
it's
and being able to to make it work together, right?
Right, exactly. And so when it comes to business, how much time do we have to put into our business? Right. Earlier, I said we have a life with a business. And so looking at the big picture and, what's the short term, midterm, long term goal? It is
Hmm.
hard for people to see themselves in X years. But with children, you can say, okay, when they're 18, what do you think? Women can often say, oh, okay, yeah, oh, wow, what would I be doing? What would I want my business to be doing?
Hmm.
But I always come at it from a life point of view. Early on in my training, because we're going to go back a while, early on in my training, it was life coach training,
Hmm.
right? There may have been a little bit of leadership or executive, but it was really, we were trained as life coaches. And I think that there's a really great meaning to that because we bring our life with us wherever we go, whether you're in
Yeah.
corporate America or you're in entrepreneurship or you're working for some wherever school, it doesn't matter. We
Hmm.
bring ourselves with us. So, if your life is out of whack, one area of your life is out of whack, of course, everything else is going to suffer because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're at that beginning of that process, what is how do you help them establish that what they're looking for? Okay, where are you now? Where do you want to go? What's the gap? Choose. How do they choose what they want? And then how do you guide them to make sure that there's follow through?
Mm. Yeah, and follow through is key.
Yeah, because things get in the way of follow through often.
Yeah, and anybody listen to this who has ever had a coach, they may have heard their coach say, "And what may get in your way?"
Oh,
So
there you go.
there is that, right? And it's like, oh well, oh, that's kind of obvious, but it really isn't because we go about things and we do things, and then we realize like, oh wait a minute, I have this or I have that, and
Hmm.
I didn't include that. And I had a conversation with a colleague just Tuesday, and she is a facilitator and she was talking with somebody and they said, we really want to bring you in, but we have had other facilitators. And when they left, nothing else changed. And our conversation was, yes, nothing else changed because while they had great facilitation, there was no accountability
Hmm.
and no one to check back to say, okay, so you have agreed to do this. Well, how are you going to know someone's going to do this?
Right.
So you need to have right. So I try to help somebody see like, okay, first of all, what could the obstacles be? Now we
Hmm.
don't always know because life happens, right? And we just
Yeah.
that's fluidity. It's going to happen. Recognizing that life is going to happen. And what could I plan? A contingency plan. So if I've decided to do, let's start with somebody starting a business and they're all gung ho, they're excited, they, are thinking about their business name or their brand and all of the fun things that go into starting their business. And they sit down to craft a newsletter. Like that's what I'm going to start building my newsletter list because somebody said build a newsletter list, and they jump in and they get going, and then they get a call from the school, like, oh, you got to come pick up Paul because he's sick. So they drop and off they go. Oftentimes what happens is they use that as an excuse, and I am saying excuse because it is something that has happened. Yes, 100%. But until we're clear on and mindset is key. I think we're going to talk a little bit of mindset today too. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit here. Mindset is key. So it's an if that, then this. And so when I sit down with somebody, getting clear on what it is they're looking to do, what their business is, how it fits into their life. And it's bigger than our conversation today, but there's certain questions I ask, certain points bring up. I, want to listen to them. They've filled out documentation so that they're getting a clear picture on what this might look like for them. Then we sit down and we craft a plan from that. And I do take into consideration the time that they have. So if they are somebody who might be called to school back and forth, like how do we build that in? So if that, then this. And so if you have to go to school to pick up your child, when then would you work on the newsletter? So I think it's Laura Vanderkam who talks. She did Tranquil by Tuesday by what is it? Oh gosh, I should know the book. Tranquil by Tuesday, and she talks about having a backup slot. And I really like that. So oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we jump into a business and we start doing things. And it's like a roller coaster. And we get on the roller coaster. It never stops, just keeps going. And it never stops. So we don't stop ourselves to say, okay, I only have this amount of time. I'm only going to be on the roller coaster for this long. What can I get done in it? And then if I'm not going to be able to finish it, where else do I put it? We don't finish it and we leave it and we go on to something else. And then we create the loop or a backlog. And so my role is to help someone not do that and be very clear on, and also what comes first. Does a YouTube channel come before getting clients? Does clients come before a YouTube channel? I'm not going to say which one comes first because it really is different from everybody and how they want, right? But helping someone determine that with concrete evidence and reasoning as to a plan of action as opposed to a plan by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. That's good. I really like the if that, then this. No. Yeah. Is that right? If that, then this. Okay. If that happens, then this happens. Right. Okay. I like that because it is so easy to get distracted no matter, whether you have kids or no kids. I have no kids. I can get really distracted by, just something dinging at me, and of course, I know there are things to do about that. And, but I know I'm not alone. So, I can often find myself like in the middle of something, go off and run and do something else and come back and go, now what was I doing? I have no idea. And stop something else and start something else, right? Because there's always a list of things to do. So when you're working with clients in that regard, is there a specific habit or task that you help them develop to get to that point where if this, then that, and they know exactly what to do, they just go to it automatically. And, that's the idea anyway, right? But, what kind of habits or tools or mental or mindset stuff do you recommend around that?
That's a really great question. And I would love to say that there is one thing so that our listeners could be like,
The
oh, what is it?
magic bullet.
I want it. Give it to me, please, please. Sadly, that is not the case because we all work differently. And we
Yeah.
all have, right, our energies, our thought process, how our beliefs, our patterns. When I first started working for myself, I think I was a worse boss than the bosses that I had in corporate, right? Yeah, and it does happen. So I do take into consideration someone's personality, someone's work process, how they work. I'm just started. You don't know this. This is new. I just started to get into human design and
Mhm.
how we, and it's really amazing. With I'm considered a generator in human design, and I can just go, 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 go. And I also like to experiment. So I probably could list off a ton of to-do list items, products for planners and all of those things because I'm an experimenter. I love to experiment on things. But I really think it is the person's choice, but understanding like what is the purpose of your choice. So if you
Mhm.
are a pen and paper person, ideally what would be best for you. And I have a great example. Had a client on Monday, and she has really wanted to do everything online because she's mobile. Her business is pretty mobile. And she's like, I just come to realize I just need to use pen and paper. I
I
just need
just
to use
use
pen and paper. So, but then my question was, okay, fabulous. And so, do you need a dedicated notebook for this? Do you need like, what is it you would use? So, she's not writing things on scraps of paper and losing them.
Yeah.
So we created that. She said, she got a small notebook, and she said, this is my dedicated place to put my to-dos, my tasks, any questions. And that was all she was going to do. She wasn't going to do anything electronic because there are a ton. You can try a ton. If anybody wants any input on anything, they can certainly feel free to reach out and probably try it.
Mhm.
But it really is a personal choice because if I tell you to go ahead and get XYZ planner, and now we're going to sit down and we're going to fill it all out. If it doesn't resonate with you, or that is just not your style, you're going to be like, oh, well, Kim said I should do this. And it doesn't feel good. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to create more
Right.
angst for you. So I really try to even out the wrinkles for people and what is their best. And they know it. Whenever I will ask that question, what has worked for you in the past?
Yeah.
They can, boom, they can just off the top of their head, like, well, why don't we start there and see?
Mhm. Mhm.
Goes.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would recommend that if anybody is thinking like, well, what should I use? What has worked for you in the past?
That's always a good place to start. It's funny because I'm a pen and paper person too. I mean, I'm digital and pen and paper, and but I just use these really cheap little notebooks. I have dozens of them, and every day I'm writing what I need to do. I take notes on what I'm thinking about, what people tell me in meetings, everything goes on that and I do date the page each
That,
day so that
that's
I
smart.
can it's like I know I talked to somebody like last Tuesday. Now, where is that in the book? What did they say again? But and that may be also, my generation too,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I,
Yes.
started working and, long before there were any, internet, there was no internet or tools, but I also really love the digital tools because then when I'm out of my office space, I can access what I have. So, or at least the important things. So I understand that like what works for you? Well, you know, that works. So, I know this is a brief conversation, but I'd like to get a sense of, if somebody's feeling a little bit out of control, they got all this stuff going on, whether they have a family or they're past the family stages, and they're just like, I don't know where to start. I got this, that, and the other thing. What would you say is how could they start taking back that control, like tomorrow or today after we finish.
Like what's a one step? I
Yeah.
think I so that's a really loaded question. So I think the
Oh,
best, right?
sorry.
Yeah, like what I do. So if somebody came to me and they was spinning my wheels, I would ask them what how ultimately do they see themselves? Like what do they see themselves doing? So that they can articulate and gain clarity around that. Because,
Mhm.
you mentioned it earlier, right? The bright, shiny objects. Like there's so many things out there spinning, 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 spinning. I always like to say, like, we just have to start somewhere. And
Right.
I have a colleague who often tells me, stop planning, just get in and get it done. Because I want to make sure everything is just so. I very much, have ways of doing things. And sometimes those ways of doing things is creating more of that spinning. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, where do I start first? And just looking around. What would give me the greatest peace of mind? And I'll give you a really silly example, but this morning I was spinning and I was like, oh, we've got this and I want to prepare and this and that and so forth and so on and everything else. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot to empty the dishwasher. Now that may sound like a crazy example, but that was on my mind. So empty the dishwasher. As I was emptying the dishwasher, funny things started to happen. My brain started to clear. And then I was like, oh, let me sit down and pull up the email that we had talked about and let me decide what I want to wear and let me get my equipment ready. And so everything just fell in line. I learned
Mhm.
something a while ago when it comes to productivity and goals and planning that we often sit down and think, okay, so I want to, we'll just use money because we're talking about business here, right? I
Mhm.
want to increase my income by $50,000 this year. Okay, great. Well, that's the goal. And now we then start thinking, okay, so what should I do? Okay, I could do this. I could do blah, blah, blah. We create this huge laundry list of things, which is not a bad idea. But then we get overwhelmed. We think, oh my God, well, how am I going to do this? And I don't know what comes from it, and so forth and so on. If we can pick the key pieces, whatever it happens to be, and then list out, okay, so let's say it's grow a YouTube channel. What's the first thing? What's the second thing? What might be the third and fourth thing? But that's it. Because what often happens is that it's kind of like the yellow brick road on the Wizard of Oz, right?
Mhm.
You take a step and then another step and then another, and then something will appear before you. So I think as business owners, we get caught up in all of the things that we need to do all at
Mhm.
once to be
Yeah.
able to get to our end result. And so perhaps if we gave ourselves, and I don't necessarily like to use this term, give ourselves grace, but give ourselves space to what might come to me because I'm taking these first two steps. And that I think will also eliminate, or maybe not eliminate, but cut down on the times where we just freeze because we don't know what to do next.
Right.
And we go on to something else and we're down another rabbit hole, as we all know we do sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And so if we only
Yes.
say, like, okay, I'm going to, how do I set up my YouTube channel? What do I need to do for that? And go with that. Then the next step will appear. So
Yeah.
what was there was a movie, right? Was it the I think it was Harrison Ford's um hmm, I should know it.
Okay, one of those where, they're trying to cross over and just the
Yes.
steps appear as they yeah, I don't know which one is it. If you're watching right now and you know the name of that movie, please put it in the messages because I know exactly what you're
You know
talking
what I'm
about.
talking
I
about.
got
It's
the
the kind
visual
of
in my mind and,
yes.
yeah,
I
just
can see
like, "Oh, yeah.
everything. Yes. And the
Yeah.
steps will appear, right? He had to believe in this that it would, right? And so
Mhm.
yes, there is a lot of belief behind all of what we're doing 100%, but also it is you have to take one step before you can take the next step. And I
Right.
feel like, there's the metaphor we bite off more than we can chew. I feel like as entrepreneurs and business owners, we try to do all the steps and then
Yeah.
wonder why things aren't working. Or what did I miss? Or why is this working for this person, but it isn't working for me? Well,
Right.
it's because that person probably took one step at a time.
There's this different step that you haven't taken yet, right? And
Yes.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's good. Just what's the next step? That's something that one of my coaches used to always say is like, what's the next logical step?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that pertained to what you were offering your clients or your customers, but also yourself. Like, okay, you've done that. What's the next logical step to get to the next space? So I like that a lot. Now, for just as we're coming to the wrap up here, I know that one of your things that you're really keen on and that you work with a lot with clients is their money models and their money mindsets and for example, pricing strategies. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. So when it comes to that part you brought up, like, hey, this is a business. I have a goal to earn more dollars this year. How does your how do you work with people around their mindset on money and pricing and that kind of thing? Because I know that's a hard thing for a lot of solo and small business owners. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be too little, all that.
What do I charge?
Yeah.
Is
What do
this
I
enough?
charge? Yeah. Yeah. Am I giving it away for too little? So I know that you have a ebook around that, but just if you could just give us a slight overview of how you work with people around that.
Absolutely. So our mindset is everything, and how we do one thing is how we do everything. How we do money is how we do everything else. So if we, can kind of see where, like you mentioned, am I charging too little? When anybody says that to me, that to me means that they do believe that they are charging too little, but there's
Hmm.
something around. So normally what I would say is, okay, great, you notice that. So what would you like to charge? Oh, well, I can't charge what I want to charge. So then we'll dig in, like, why do you feel that you can't charge what you want to charge? What is it that you want to, usually I'll ask, what is it you want to charge? Okay, great. So let's say it's $5,000. And now we'll dig into, and I usually get what I call their excuses 100%. I can't charge because, and whenever anybody says to me because, something else is coming. They're going
Hmm.
to they're going to tell me why they can't. And often it is their what's the word? They think it's a reason and they think it's the truth. But it really is a story. And so we all come with money stories. I once led a money mindset class and one of the ladies said, "Oh no, I don't have a money story." I said, "Okay." In the back of my head, I'm thinking, yep, well, we'll just see about that. And no sooner than we ended the class, the afternoon, she wrote me, she's like, "Oh my God, I just uncovered all the money stories that I didn't know that I had." Because we do have them. We can't live and not have a story around it, an experience around it. We have stories about
Hmm.
everything. Why people won't work with us. Why can't I find clients? There's stories behind everything. But when it comes to money, it's usually something that has happened in our past. Somebody said, "Oh, that's too expensive," or, "Oh, I wouldn't pay for that," or,
Hmm.
"Who do you think you are? Money doesn't grow on trees." All those things. So I often try to
Yeah.
uncover the origin story, and it's like an onion. We think we have the story, and then, we have that story, and then there's another story, another story, another story, another story. And then the question is it serving you? So there's the mindset behind it. But then what I often like to do is, and I worked with a woman at the beginning of the year on a VIP day on this, is she was definitely undercharging, but she wasn't able to see the value she was bringing to her
Hmm.
clients. And so what I like to do is something really practical, because sometimes the mind can play tricks on us, right? It can, and not in a good way. And it can also play tricks on us in a good way, but often when it comes to money, it's not. And what she didn't see is she was actually losing money in her business by working with this client. So a very practical way is to look at, see, what are your expenses and are what you're bringing in equaling or above? And
Hmm.
she realized hers were under here. And so that was a big eye opener for her.
Hmm.
And so, that was great. So she could see it. Sometimes we need the awareness. And then she started her business. She didn't have any clients, so she wanted a client to work with, and he was the client. And she continued to work with him. He continued to give her more work. She didn't raise any prices because she didn't think that she could.
Right.
And that's how that started. But it is, if we look at where did this thought come from? Why can't I charge more? What is around that?
Mhm.
I also work with something called Sacred Money Archetypes, which has been created by Kendall Summerhawk, and
Mhm.
it is so amazing. So they're also, we can call them personalities, our money personalities, and when we can see, there's 8 of them, and when we can see the ones that we're leading with and the one that we're so far removed from, it's almost easier. It's like a light being shined on a mindset, and
Interesting. Interesting.
then my clients and people can usually see like, oh, okay, oh, now, so how can I, shift? And they all have, they've got let's call them a light side and a dark side, or a positive side and a negative side. And it's often when we're in the negative side that we're feeling, I can't do this. I can't raise my prices. What will people think? And what will they say? And
Mhm.
it's not about, the work really, because, if you are bringing something valuable to the world, your clients, the ones that are made for you and that
Right.
will be attracted to you, will resonate with it, right?
Right.
And so it's paying attention to that as well. And when we can see it and recognize, like, I'm an accumulator, and accumulators do not like to, we do not like to spend money. We do like to save money. And I work with a lot of accumulators, and one of our traits is we will say, oh, I can't afford that. But there's oftentimes like a new laptop. I've had clients who won't
Mhm.
buy a new laptop, yet they're complaining because they can't get their work done or it's crashing. Well, really, if you think about it, you can't afford not to buy the
Right.
laptop.
Right.
So it's really just helping someone see what it is that is stopping them to
Right.
then be able to shift into a different, new, positive, and self help my mindset.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I know that's an issue that I've certainly, experienced more than once, on and off throughout my business career. So, and I know that's pretty common for most people. And I did ask you if you wanted to share your pricing ebook. And so there will be a link with the recording when, because I can't really do a link here. So when I post the recording, we'll include a link to your pricing guide too. 'Cause,
Excellent.
it's a really important piece that I think that people can benefit from, no matter where they are in the whole, uh, you know, spectrum of
Hmm.
how they feel about money. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. Um, you've given us so many great ideas to think about and so many things, but I want to know a little bit more about you. So I've got 3 rapid fire questions. Just
Okay.
say what it is. Your favorite habit for staying on track?
A timer.
A timer. Okay, like the Pomodoro timer, or
Or just
just like
regular.
a regular.
I use 2. I use my Apple Watch because I have to stop what I'm doing to stop it. So it's like
Mhm.
it's a physical pattern interrupt.
Oh, that's good.
And it
Yeah.
can just like, sometimes I'll set the stove, or whatever time I have another timer that I do. I use 2. Sometimes it's on my phone if my phone's not near me, because it's that this is time to wrap up and now you're done.
Right. Right. Okay, and you have to actually stop doing to turn off the timer.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I
Key.
like
That's
that.
key.
What is one mindset tip that always works for you?
Just get going. Just get going.
Okay. Okay. How do you make yourself just get going though?
I say, Kim, let's go.
And you do.
I do.
Oh, good. You've got so much discipline. And what is your go-to tool for managing your time?
A paper planner, pen and paper.
Okay.
I like to
All
see my
right.
week laid out and what I have for appointments and what's my free time that I can put a work block in. And I'm visual, so being able to see it is really
Mhm. Very good. All right. So, thank you very much. You
You're
have any
welcome.
parting words of wisdom for the audience?
I would say look to yourself, like, really, you know yourself. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, work to your strengths, And I'm not going to say forget about the weaknesses, but the strengths will overcome your weaknesses. We don't have to work on the weaknesses. Let's work on what we're good at.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate you spending time with me today and sharing your wisdom and how you working with clients to with my audience here. So
Thanks.
this will be published on Friday, whatever that day that is, July 18th, and with along with links to where people can find you. And Kim's website is at kimravida.com. So you can
Yeah.
go there in the meantime. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kim.
Denise. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye bye, everyone. Thanks for
Bye.
being here.